Welcome back to Inside the Hoop. This is episode 4. Today we're going to be recapping what the Tennessee Tech men's and women's basketball teams did over the course of the OVC tournament this past weekend. And we'll start with the men's. Adam, they lost in the first round Wednesday to UT Martin. I said it in the last episode. I just didn't really like the draw.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row in one season. That's really tough to do.
Yeah, especially when we had 2 close games with them in overtime the last 2 times. It was a tough position for Tech to be in, for sure. You know, is there things that we could have done better? Absolutely. Is there things that we could have capitalized on? Sure. But at the end of the day, we're out of the tournament.
Yeah. The season's over for the Tennessee Tech men's basketball team, and it was a fun ride. You know what I mean? It was a fun season to keep up with. The players were fun to keep up with. You know, your guys like Jalen Johnson. I just mainly hate it for the seniors. You know, Rodney Johnson, Matthew Sells, Grant Slatton. I hate it for the guys that went through senior day, and it was just a heartbreaking way to lose a game.
Yeah, it does suck for the seniors. The good news is that one of those seniors was a starter. 2 of them were bench players. Mm-hmm. So overall for the team, it looks great. We're not losing a lot of guys, but it does suck for those guys, and especially for Grant Slatton, who played his heart out. I mean, we're both Sparta natives. Yeah,
we've been really rooting for Grant, kind of on the side. You know what I mean? Try not to be too Grant biased, but man, we really wanted to pull for that guy. He's a good guy, and he's a good player, and he set records at Sparta, and we were rooting for him the whole time he was at Tennessee Tech. And for his last game to be perfect from the field, 5 for 5, 17 points, converted on an and one 4-point play. He played out of his mind, and he wound up fouling out toward the end of the ball game, which was unfortunate. We had to give fouls, so he was just the guy who was, you know, trying to stop the clock and do what we needed to do to give ourselves a chance. But I mean, he did foul out, and that was sad to see. You could see him kind of look up at the scoreboard and then look down at the court, and I think he kind of realized that was his last game in the Tennessee Tech uniform. So we'll see what he decides to do. But it was just sad for all the seniors. But for us, it hit you know, it hit home a little bit when he, you know, played as good as he did, and then ultimately fouled out.
To lose, I mean,
exactly.
In the first round, you know, you drove all the way up to Evansville, and it's over like that.
Yeah. Well, it was like UT Martin, man, credit to them because they've lost twice to us already. So you know the coach is chirping in their ears like, you know, you can beat this team. You've went into overtime twice with them already. Yeah. And we let the one guy get hot that we couldn't let get hot. Yeah. He didn't have any points in the first half. It was Terrence Ginyard for UT Martin. He had 18 in the second half. That killed us. That was the difference of the game. He was battling an injury. He looked pretty healthy to me in the second half. Yeah. So that was what really hurt Tennessee Tech, was letting him get going again like they did in the home matchup when he sent the game into overtime after we had a pretty comfortable lead. But the biggest thing for me, especially toward the end of the year, Tennessee Tech's got to learn how to close games out.
Mm-hmm. That's something they've really struggled with. I mean, they can keep these games close, and they can, you know, they might take a lead here or there. They might be down the whole game, but they just fail to close out a lot of the times. They just don't come in clutch when they need it the most. It's
right. Yeah. Well, it's just they have a lead. It feels like a lot of times late in these games, and then especially in the last 3 games where they lost all 3 games in a row, they had the lead at some point. When Western Illinois, that game kind of got away from them, but they still had a lead at some point in the game, and they just weren't able to close it out. And you know, these tight games like that, they're able to win them against UT Martin in the regular season, but when it came down to tournament time, they ultimately were on the other end of that deal.
Yeah, it's tough, really. I mean, when you got to beat a team 3 times, and both the times you win in overtime, they learn a lot about you. You win, you almost forget your opponent. It's you know, you won. What's there to remember? You beat that team. When you lose to a team and then you got to play them again, you remember a lot of things.
Yeah, and I'll have to confess, I may have jinxed Tennessee Tech because when Tech beat UT Martin for the second time at home, the men's team, and I've got some friends in Martin, and so I was picking at them. I sent the scores of the football game from last year where we beat them. I sent those last night, you know, those scores from that game and the women's game. It was like 5 screenshots of Tennessee Tech beating UT Martin. I was like, we own y'all. Yeah, got beat Wednesday, and they let me know. They let me know about it immediately.
Yeah, I mean that's good rivalry though. You know, it's UT Martin and Tech, in-state rivals. That's just good banter, you know. That's going at each other.
It is. It's fun, you know. It's all in good fun. In-state rivalries, you can't beat them. But Jalen Johnson, he had another good night, obviously. He started out 4 for 4 from 3. That was impressive. He finished with 16 points. I'll be interested to see in what he does this offseason. Does he go to the portal? Does he stay? You kind of have to ask that with everybody nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, a long time ago, you just kind of assumed everybody was coming back. If you're not a senior, you're coming back. Can't wait to have you next year. But nowadays, it's not like that. You don't know who's – this is going to be a completely different roster this time next year.
Yeah. This is his team. I mean, when you look at it, when you look at the lead in the score, when you look at the guy who's making – not to say that the other guys don't make effort, but when you look at who's making the most effort and the most impact out there, Jalen Johnson's team.
Yeah.
He is the leader. He's the player that's making the most impact every single game. Other guys might trade out here or there, but he is consistent. If he wants to continue being a leader and he wants to continue having, being the number one option on offense and stuff like that, stay. Why would you leave this? This is a great situation for you. But I understand why someone would want to leave. He played well. I'm sure that there would be, bigger schools than Tech interested in him. But you have everything you need to be a leader, and you have everything that you need to be a number one option here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're going to be biased, obviously, because we really like Jalen. We got a chance to talk to him against Western Illinois post-game, and he was just a really classy guy, even after a loss. But we hope he comes back. If he doesn't, we'll respect the decision either way, but he just got to do what's best for Jalen, you know what I mean, and what's best for his future. But ultimately, like we said, Tennessee Tech did fall to UT Martin. The season's over. It's just going to have to be it's going to be a really important offseason for Coach Pelfrey and this whole staff and the whole team in terms of roster management and, transfer portal stuff. It'll be interesting to see how he handles it, but let's go ahead and shift into the women's basketball side of things because we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. So much.
Just congratulations, first of all. I mean, where do we even start, right? I mean,
you won. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
You won the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, it is great to win the tournament. We are regular season champions. We are OVC tournament champions. Those are both accomplishments that we will not take for granted. Those are both things that we're going to remember. But let's talk about the big thing in the room, which is automatically qualified for March Madness.
Yeah, you're automatically qualified for March Madness. You're automatically qualified for the NCAA tournament. As it stands right now, they got a 15 seed, and the 2 seed is projected to be NC State. We'll see if that actually follows through. Selection Sunday will be this Sunday, March 16th. But, man, like you said, the headline is there.
Yeah.
Tech is in – we're dancing in March.
We're back.
We're in the NCAA tournament yet again. After 2 or 3 years ago, we were in there as well. So it's just good to be back. It's good that we can keep this podcast going because we were kind of worried about that.
Yeah.
This is a fun podcast. So we're going to have some more episodes come out in the near future because we have to cover that because that's huge.
A chance to talk about March Madness? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tech's right there in the thick of it. I mean, we'll talk about the game in a second, but in terms of a March run, this women's team kind of has everything you need when you really think of it because they've got senior leadership, check, right? Experience, check. Scoring ability, check on all 5 positions.
Yeah, put
they
3
can all
check marks
score.
there.
Yeah, they can all score. And they got good coaching, too, so check mark there. Yeah. Those are the teams that make the long runs and make the Cinderella teams in March that you see. They all have that in common, and Tennessee Tech's no different.
Yeah, no, this team absolutely has the ability to do it. Upsetting a supposed number 2 seed, that is a tall order.
It's a tall task.
But I think out of all the teams in the tournament, Tech, they might have the best chance to do that. I mean,
I think so. Well, it's just in terms of all the 15 seeds, I don't know. I've not studied them up yet. Obviously, I don't know much about the other teams. I know about Tech though. Yeah. They've got a bunch of different. They got a plethora of different players that can score on any given night. We've talked about that a bunch. I just know how that team plays, and I know that their resiliency and just the talent. I feel like talent a lot of times this season in the OVC just triumphed. Tech was more talented. They were the most talented team in the OVC. It wasn't even close.
Oh, yeah. When we got the opportunity to watch them play.
Yes.
But if you take your time and you watch a game of theirs, you're like, this squad, they know what they're doing. It's more than just pure skill or pure athleticism. It's more than just, having the ability to outscore your opponent. This is such a well-coached team. You can see that their, grasp on the fundamentals of basketball is insane.
Yeah.
A lot of time when people talk about women's basketball, they're like, oh, it's just all fundamentals, no flash. This team's got both.
Yeah.
They are fundamentally sound. They are a good, well-coached team, and they got some flash to them. I mean, when you watch, someone like Peyton Carter shooting threes, you're like, when you watch Anna Walker deny someone in the paint for the 10th time in the game, this team's got flash.
They're definitely fun to watch.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I noticed about them when I started covering them. They're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Which is great when you're covering any sport, any team. As far as the weekend goes and the recap of the games, I felt like they didn't play their best basketball in either game.
Yeah.
But they still ultimately won both games. They started out against Southern Indiana for the semifinals round.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good game. That turned out to be a pretty good game. You had kind of a little bit of a back and forth battle, especially in the third quarter, because Southern Indiana, once they proved that they could play with Tennessee Tech. If that makes any sense. They had already gotten beat by Tech twice, and they proved that they could play with them. And like we said in the last episode, Tech has a target on their back. They did in the OVC tournament the whole time. They're the 1 seed.
They're the big dog.
They're the big dog. That's the team you want to beat. You want to take down the 1 seed. They had a target on their back, and Southern Indiana, they kind of had a little bit like belief in their team, and they had a lot of fans there too. That was right in their backyard. They had a lot of belief in that team. You could tell that they were there to fight, and Tech just kept coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just kept playing, and ultimately that was the end of it. Terrace Thornton was huge in that game. 20 points, 9 rebounds. She was huge. I keep mentioning her as the X factor, and I'm going to stick to that.
Yeah.
She's gotten so much better as the pace of the year has gone on. Down the stretch, she's been really good for Tennessee Tech. She's a transfer player from Eastern Illinois. The theory that I have with these transfer players, and Keely Carter's the same way, we'll get to her in a minute.
Yeah.
She played great.
Yeah.
These transfer players, when they transfer from one school to another, they come to that new school. It takes them a while to kind of get, adapted.
Yeah, you got to click.
Yeah, exactly. But once they do, they start really working. It's been that way for Tennessee Tech. Terrace Thornton and Keely Carter have both gotten really good as the season's progressed. Jalen Johnson on the opposite side, Tennessee Tech men's team. He was good at the beginning of the year, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there toward the end of the year, man, he was lighting them up.
Yeah.
So that's just it's encouraging to see that. And of course you had a bunch of senior leadership that stepped up as well. But like I said, the big takeaway for me against Southern Indiana was Terrace Thornton's performance, and just that team was not going to lose. They just weren't going to lose. They decided they're not going to lose. We're going to the championship tomorrow. We're going to play another day.
Yeah. No, they're too talented to lose. They got too much heart to lose. They're too well coached to lose. I mean, not in a fashion like that. They're, with Kiblet Roseman, a coach like that knows what she's doing. She's not going to get in this tournament setting and be like, what do we do now? She knows. She's been there. She knows what to do. She knows what she has to say to, each of her players individually, because you can't just give them all the same speech. You got to talk to them individually.
Yeah.
She knows what she's got to say to these players to get them on the right track. She's been doing that all year. That's why we won the regular season, and that's why that we are ultimately the OVC champions.
Yeah, it feels good because you're hanging 2 banners in the hoop when it's all said and done. You're hanging the regular season OVC champions, and then you're hanging the tournament champions as well.
Yeah.
We'll get into the Lindenwood game right now. Actually, I want to go back. I want to take a step back.
Let's hit the brakes.
I want to shout out Southern Indiana Meredith Rayleigh. She put up 29 points, and 9 rebounds. She fouled out late in the game. She was dynamic in that game. She kept Southern Indiana in that game the whole time. So shout out to her. I mean, she played great. We couldn't stop her. Yeah. But ultimately it wasn't enough to beat Tennessee Tech because, like I said, just the talent level is it's a whole nother ball game. Moving on into the Lindenwood game, we kind of knew, me and you did, that those 2 teams were probably going to play for it in the OVC championship. Those are the 2 best teams.
Yeah, that's clear to anyone that's watched the OVC, this year. Those are the 2 best teams. Those are the teams that are most fundamentally sound. But Tech had the upper hand. I mean, we beat them as our last game of the regular season.
Yeah,
it's clear that Tech had that team's number. I mean, and they beat them in a convincing fashion. They were ready to play. They were there to win. Lindenwood, they tried their best, but Tech, you just can't stop a powerhouse like that. And that's what Tech really is. They are a powerhouse.
Well, it was a really exciting game, like a really back-and-forth game, especially toward the end of the ball game. Just 2 of the really good teams in the OVC going at it the whole game long. And like I said, I didn't feel like Tennessee Tech played their best brand of basketball on Saturday, even though they did wind up winning the game. A huge performance by Reagan Grimes in that entirety of the game, 23 points. The shot that she made to send it into overtime was unreal. Yeah. I mean, it looked like something that LeBron or Kevin Durant would do. It was a little like she had it down on the post and she kind of faked one way and then turned around, a little fadeaway. It was a beautiful shot. It was like,
you want to get up and give us a demonstration? Get one on camera.
I can, but I won't
Yeah.
because I don't know if I can execute like Reagan Grimes
No,
can.
I don't think anyone in this studio could execute like she can.
It was a beautiful shot. Shout out to her. And she's just a junior, so she can come back next year. That's important because she could play a huge role in leadership next year if she does decide to come back. But anyway, that's a side note. Keely Carter was just, I can't even describe. I don't have a word to describe her impact at the end of the game. 13 of 13 from the line.
That's insane. I mean, if you ever sit in a gym and just practice your free throws, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
13 of 13, it's easy when you're in a quiet gym. When you get in front of a crowd, so much harder. And
I was just going to say, and not just a crowd. In the championship game to potentially not only give your squad another banner in the hoop, you increase your chances of going to March Madness, even though they had technically already clinched that bid prior to that game, but it was still nice to win the OVC tournament championship. I mean, it was amazing what she did late in the game. She hit a shot and one at the end of the game that was really big. She was driving to the basket and she just kind of floated it up and the ball went over her head, went into the hoop. Next thing you know, she drains her free throw, and it's a three-point play. It's just big play after big play. She finished with 9 points in overtime. 9 out of 12 Tech's points. 9 out of 12 of Tech's points in overtime were scored by Keely Carter, and she wound up winning the tournament MVP and much deserved.
Oh yeah, no, there wasn't a better player that you could have chose. I mean, every girl on that squad made an impact, but when you look at it overall, Keely Carter, that's what it was.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to my little theory here about transfer players.
Yeah.
She transferred from Trevecca, kind of a smaller school. She dominated down there. And you kind of thought, okay, how's that going to translate to a higher level of play, the OVC?
Yeah.
I think it translated pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's safe to say that she's one of Tech's better scorers, which is saying something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She finished the season as a second-team All-OVC player. She was part of the all-newcomer team. You know, it's incredible to see her growth as the years gone on, too. Like I keep saying with those transfer players, once they adapt, they usually turn it on. You know what I mean? I've got another example. This is going way out in left field. Look at Joe Burrow, okay? When he went from Ohio State to LSU, his first year, good player.
Yeah.
Nothing like his second year, though.
Oh, yeah.
Once he adapted to the, Baton Rouge, you know what I'm saying? Once he adapted to that and became Joe Burrow with an X at the end of it, then that was when he really took his stride. So just fun stuff like that. But, I mean, like I said, just shout out to Keely Carter. She was huge in that game. Anna Walker did wind up fouling out toward the end of the game, which I thought was going to really hurt Tech. I got nervous when Walker went out.
Yeah, you have to. I mean,
she's one of the best players on the team. Yeah. Defensively, like you said earlier, she's like the Kimbe Mutombo down there blocking shots left and right. That's pretty important in a game like that. Amelia Pfeiffer, though, stepped up pretty big, I thought. The freshman.
Yeah, played a lot of minutes, too.
Played a lot of minutes, and was really good down low in the paint defensively. So shout out to her. Like I said, she's just a freshman. Hopefully she decides to come back. I think she could take a really big step if she gets a little bit better at scoring down low. She could be a force to be reckoned with in the future. I think so.
Tech, we're losing a lot of players.
Yeah, it's going to really hurt.
Yeah. This is a new team next year. We're going to have to learn a lot of new names, but Tech has the players on that bench. We've talked about Tech's lineup and how they run usually about 7, maybe 8 players per game.
That's generous. Yeah.
It's great because I think it helped us win the tournament. I think that our players were so well conditioned, they were so used to playing that, it's a lot of experience. The sad part is that experience doesn't go to your bench players and your freshman players, and that might bite Tech in the butt.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. I think that, with a coach like Kim Roseman, she can train them up. She can get the squad into shape. She doesn't, the players don't make this team. I think a lot of it comes from Kim Roseman.
Yeah, she's a great coach. I think with Roseman, her personality is kind of, to a transfer player and to a basketball player, it's attractive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You want to play for a coach like that. Yeah. She seems like she cares about her players, which I think is really important and kind of a big reason why this team's so tight. Yeah. It all starts with her. And I think over the offseason, she'll be looking for that next Terrace Thornton. She'll be looking for that next Keely Carter. Who can I go get? Who's going to fit our system like those two did? Yeah. Who's going to fit our system well so that we can build this team like we did this past season? Because this team had a lot coming back. We had Reagan Hurst coming back as well, and we'll get her next year, which is huge. So we have to remember that. And she was able to go out and get Chloe Larry from high school ranks. Yeah. She's just a freshman.
Crazy.
Reagan Hurst goes down, you replace her with Chloe Larry. That's talent.
Yeah.
That's stacked right
yeah.
there. And you already had Peyton Carter coming back, Reagan Grimes. You had Anna Walker, players like that were already coming back. And she went out and got 2 huge additions in the portal. So if she's able to replicate that, Kim Roseman I'm talking about, she's able to replicate that in this offseason cycle, Tech's going to continue to be pretty good.
And you know what kind of player she's going to go after? She's not going to go after your D3 or your JUCO transfers. She's not going to go after maybe like a D2 transfer. She's not going to go after OVC transfers. She's going to look at these high D1 programs with players that maybe aren't happy about the playing time they're getting, maybe are a little disgruntled with the way things are run at one of these top schools, about how they're feeling overlooked. And she goes, you come to Tech.
Mm-hmm.
We will get you playing time. This is a very tight-knit group. This is a very, hands-on type of coaching system. She isn't a system. Kim Roseman is, it's like an experience.
The Kim Roseman experience.
The Kim Roseman experience. We might have to make a documentary on that.
I like that.
But she's going to go after these D1 players, these, top-tier players, and she's going to go, you come to Tech, look at my resume.
Yeah.
Just won the regular season, just won the OVC tournament, been to March Madness twice.
Yeah.
That's still enough national recognition for some of these players to say, I can work with this. Because you don't want to go from a top D1 program to down to, bottom of D1.
Yeah.
But if you're a top D1 player and you look at where can I go that I might get a little more playing time, you look at the middle of D1, you got Tech sitting right there. You got a coach that's been here for a while. She's got everything in place. It's nothing new, nothing to get used to. There's no, there's no chinks in the chain.
Yeah.
She will attract players because she's going to say, look at my resume, look what I've built here, look what we can do.
Well, I think she could go that route. Certainly she could. If I'm at a higher level and I'm not getting as much playing time, I would certainly look at Tennessee Tech as a destination of choice.
Yeah.
She's also, we've got to give her credit in terms of her evaluation, because Terrace Thornton was from Eastern Illinois, which is an OVC school.
Mm-hmm.
So she went out and she played against Thornton last year, and she's like, man, that's a good player. So as soon as she was in the portal, Roseman reaches out and gets her.
Yeah.
She sees something she likes, she goes and gets it. Same thing with Keely Carter. I mean, coming out of Trevecca, she dominated down there. A lot of people would probably think that if she went, like we said earlier, if she goes a level up, she might not be able to translate that game into the next level. She was able to do so. And credit to Kim Roseman and that staff. The entire staff is really solid, too. Yeah. Credit to that entire staff for being able to evaluate that talent and say, yeah, she would fit in perfect here. We want her a part of our family.
Yeah.
So credit to that as well. But it's been a crazy ride. I mean, they've won 17 games in a row. How much longer can they keep it up, right? Yeah. I mean, you would love to see them get an upset in the tournament against whoever they wind up playing. Like I said, as of right now, it's NC State, which is a great basketball team. They're a 2 seed for a reason. But Tech is also in the tournament for a reason as well. And like we said, they've won 17 in a row. So we'll see if they can continue the momentum. It'll be fun to cover the rest of the way. Yeah,
I'm just glad that we get to film another episode.
Me too.
That's all. I love that Tech's in March Madness. I love that we get to see them go. I love that they get that kind of exposure and they get that kind of experience, because that's an unforgettable experience going to March Madness. But I'm just happy that we don't have to hang it up for the semester. I'm glad that we get to still do this, because hopefully we'll be able to come back next year, do another basketball podcast. Hopefully we might get to do a football podcast.
Mm-hmm.
All of that well and good, but I'm having fun this semester. I don't want it to end.
Yeah, I agree. I've really liked this podcast a lot, and I want to keep it going as long as we can. Again, just congratulations to the Tennessee Tech women's basketball program. Win, lose, or draw in this tournament, they're in the tournament. They're in the March Madness tournament. So regardless of what happens, they've accomplished a lot this season. This is one of the better seasons in recent memory for this program. So just congratulations to them all the way around.
Yeah, nice one.
There you go. I mean, a round of applause for them. Yeah. But that's all the time we have for you in this episode. Thank you so much for joining episode 4 of Inside the Hoop. Episode 5, we'll see if we can either preview the game, whoever they wind up playing, or maybe recap that game. We'll definitely have another episode for you guys coming out soon. But as of right now, that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you so much for listening again, and we'll see you in the next one.